And so he ends up coming back to his home and doing some other projects he's interested in, just fails miserably. And then he remembers that he had promised to write this book. So he writes this book, and he doesn't have any money because he failed in all his other ventures. So someone offers to publish the book for him, this small little publishing company, and they do 2,000 copies. And he just starts talking to people about it, and then people are starting to talk to other people about it, and all of a sudden these are all sold. So they start printing more. And so that's the way it's happened with all 9 books. There's never been any advertising. It's all been word of mouth. And now he's one of the most popular authors in Russia.
Yeah.
Just from word of mouth, and because these ideas are so powerful. And in the books detail exactly how to implement it.
Yeah, they're very practical, the concepts in the books.
And like we were talking about, one of the main concepts it's focused around is having a place where every family can live. So what we're setting up right now is a 600-acre or more piece of land that can have about 200 families. And that's, yeah, between 150 to 200 families is the size of these communities for people who desire to live in this.
Where's the land going to be?
We haven't found, or we haven't chosen a specific
hill
one.
country in Texas is pretty nice.
Yeah, well, if you're interested in that, there's actually a group forming down there
Really?
too.
Yep, Fredericksburg area.
Who's also
Some of the prettiest country.
who's also affiliated with the same
Yeah.
group.
Yeah. And up here in North Texas, there's a beautiful land up, north and northeast and a little bit northwest of Dallas. That's the area we're looking at right now that we're most attracted to at the moment.
Yeah, it's still close enough to Dallas, like within an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But far enough where we can have a space that big.
So how are you acquiring 200 acres of land?
600.
600.
600 acres.
This
200.
is what's so remarkable, and I'd like to interject something here, is that we were talking about, they had actually found 42 acres of land that they fell in love with, and it was $199,000, and they were looking at ways to finance that and moving forward, and Courtney and I were talking about grants. There are a lot of grants out there for people who are interested in creating self-sustaining, solar-powered types of projects. So Courtney started investigating that, and then came across this group in Colorado. So I'd love for you to take
Yeah,
that.
the Colorado Kids Domain. You talk about how you found out about it.
Yeah, I was researching kin domains on the internet to see what other people had done because I was interested in setting up a community like this. So I came across the Colorado Kin Domains website, and they've had a group. Their group has been meeting since last summer. So they have a lot of the steps already completed. And their vision is to have their settlement, but also within their organization have it replicatable, so that every 3 to 5 years they're funding a new settlement, and then that it just grows like that.
Yeah.
So to start off with, they're funding. I'll back up. They outline all these steps. They do their meetings and everyone's input. They've come up with a whole system of how to do this, and then they took all the information they put together and they applied for grants. And they received the grants, and they're in the millions of dollars range, to the point where they can fund 9 settlements of this size.
9, 600-acre or larger settlements.
So one of the main points is that this, a family domain of 2.5 acres should be available to everyone. And this is the way it's being, this is the way we can do it right now before legislation is passed.
Yeah, before it's actually passed as a law in our country, where the government actually gives everyone that much land, which is happening in Russia right now.
Wow.
Yeah, that's actually a law in Russia. Everyone in Russia, every family who asks for it
Who asked for it?
Every family who asks for it is given, 1 hectare, 2.5 acres of land.
In exchange of, they
Well, they make it
Grow.
beautiful.
Make
That's
it
what,
beautiful and they
They
yeah.
grow.
cultivate it.
That's the agreement is make it beautiful, cultivate it.
Can the government just take it anytime they want?
No,
Eminent domain,
no.
Eminent domain or?
condemnation.
So it's a grant, it's like yours, I mean, it's yours, it's
Yeah,
not
it's
something
like-
you have to
it's
pay
like
back.
It's kind of like land patents, because land patents are when you actually patent a piece of land in your name, it means you own it and nothing can, there can be no reason it can be taken away. Yeah.
Did Russia start off like this,
Except for-
Yeah, well, they,
the 600 acres, and then, or no?
no, I don't think so. I think they did it a different way.
Yeah, when he
Government
first
did
started, when Vladimir first started writing the books in 1995, I think, groups started forming because they liked the idea. And they're all different sizes. They're kind of like the eco-villages, if anyone's heard of those, or the intentional communities here in the U.S. And yeah, so they started forming all different sizes and things like that. And the members were contributing money to buy the land. But basically they were all had the same idea, growing plants in a specific way and living in your garden and that kind of
So how do you, like, is there going to be some form of governing body over the 600 acres to collect money for property taxes? I mean,
Here's how it.
because there's property taxes in the
We're
Texas.
still getting
Maybe.
clarification on this, but here's how it potentially could work. The grants buy the land, obviously, so it's bought outright, and then you actually county governments, which is what people pay property taxes to, are corporations. So normally people don't realize it, but when they get a mortgage or they buy a house or land or something, they're actually signing a contract with the county to pay property taxes, be subject to zoning rules and county building codes and things like that. So if you just don't sign that contract, which nobody can force you to enter into a contract, then you're not subject to any of that.
Yeah, it isn't required to buy a piece of land. Signing that contract isn't required.
And then if you,
Well, you can get agricultural exemptions too.
Just
Yeah, you can get all kinds of
exemptions,
exemptions.
But then it's
still, you still have taxes just real low.
Yeah.
Just real low.
It's a
Well,
little,
Louisiana, there's no property tax. It
If you
depends
own
on,
your house
yeah,
outright, yeah.
yeah, some states have state income tax, but no property tax.
Mhm.
Texas has no income tax, but property tax.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this from a practical point of view. I mean, I get the concept here. When would you see, most optimistic scenario breaking ground in that 600, this piece of land? Are we looking at 6 months, a year? What is
2 months.
Less than
I was
that.
gonna say,
Yeah.
within a year, you
Right
can
now.
go.
So you have, okay,
I
it
mean,
all
there are
depends,
billions
it all
and billions
depends
of
on
uncounted
our,
grants
way.
every year.
it all depends on our,
Readiness.
everyone's readiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you
And
get
there's-
ready by reading the books.
Yeah, the
That's
first step
the
is
big
to read
part,
the books.
yeah.
The second step, there's some action steps, which are already outlined, and we can go over that in further meetings. But
And you're sold out, can I get it on the internet?
yeah, you can get them on the internet. We're still going to be offering them for for our cost, and we're getting our next shipment tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
And I highly recommend, there's a link on the meetup group to the Colorado Kins domain. I highly recommend that everybody who's interested
Yeah.
spend time, invest your time reading their notes, starting from when they first started with their whole concept and how they've gone through the process and how they are creating their structure based on an amazing form of organization that's very self-empowering and group empowering. That's very outside the box of what we're used to in organizational structures. I mean, I just read everything on their website, and that's a lot of information
Last night.
last night. Well, I've also read a little
This morning.
bit of it a couple days ago. Yeah,
I guess you could do some sort of non-profit incorporation
Read-
or a
read-
church.
read
Yeah,
this information,
something.
and then you'll be inspired with ideas.
I'll explain about that a
well,
little bit,
I'm
like who owns
concerned
the
more with
land.
taxes and government.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying to you.
Who's supplying the grant?
Right.
Or the group in Colorado that has acquired these grants? Who's
I think it's
supplying?
2 different organizations. They have 2 different grants.
Yeah, they received 2 different grants, and I don't know what organizations the grants are from.
They don't say on their website.
Yeah.
Now, let's say that is